So, welcome to our podcast, Choose Joy, Choose You. And today we have Joy of Storytelling with Kim Dietrich. And Kim is an amazing person, a friend of mine, as well as my editor of my book, Choose Joy, Choose You. Kim is a founder of Story and Substance Company, creator of your book, Your Way program, where she helps individual professionals and change makers turn their stories, ideas, and expertise into books, content, and messages that create lasting impact. And as I said, Kim has been my friend for many years, the producer of my previous podcast on Inspired Choices Network. And now I would like to ask Kim to kind of introduce herself and say a few words. Why did you choose to do what you do?
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. So Kim Dietrich here. Why I chose to do what I do. I was looking through, I have two vintage suitcases that sit in my bedroom that are sort of function as a coffee table. And I was looking through them and I found a book that consists of envelopes for an elementary school child to save different creations or writings or report cards and awards and that kind of thing. And on the outside of the envelope, there's space to write in, what you were interested in at that point in your life, what you were focused on, and one of the spots is to write what you want to be when you grow up. And when I was 8 years old, so I think it was in grade 4 or 5, if I'm not mistaken, I wrote down I wanted to be a writer. And I can't really recall doing a lot of writing back then, but I think that I've just always liked to spend time in my head, to think about ideas and then put them down on the page. And I've done all kinds of different things professionally over the course of my life. I've worked in different fields, but I've always enjoyed telling stories, whether that's verbally or writing them on the page. I just think that stories are a wonderful way to connect to each other. And there's a lot of joy in storytelling, whether it's, the verbal tradition of telling stories or writing them down on paper. So today, I get to spend my days listening to other people. I'm usually the one asking the questions, and people talk, and then I make them pause or ask them to pause, and I identify something that they've just talked about, and then I pull on the thread a little bit. I want to hear a little bit more about that, and I ask them questions to kind of open it up and pull out a story, because that's where my brain goes when someone's talking. I'm picking up something they're saying, and I'm turning it into a story. So, yeah.
So it's amazing. And your stories are amazing because I know you have 2 kids and you've been an editor, a producer for Inspired Choices Network, and now you actually left to be on your own.
Yes.
How exciting is that? Tell me more as far as what's your kind of like, I wouldn't say goal, but target for the future.
My target for the future is really a continuation of what I've been doing over the past 6 years. I worked in hospitality earlier in my career and ran high-end fine dining restaurants and did some restaurant reviewing and food writing, and then sort of learned the business of running restaurants. And then when I wanted to transition out of that to spend more time with my 2 sons, I started working as a recruiter in 2018. So sort of 2 years before the world kind of shut down, I was already working from home, getting on the phone and building relationships with people. So then when I kind of had to pivot in my career, it made sense to me to turn back into writing because I'd been doing that sort of parallel to hospitality. And so I did a lot of content marketing writing. in the years that followed. And content marketing writing is different than copywriting in that it's telling the story of a business or an entrepreneur or an individual that wants to connect with other people out there and sort of tell the world who they are. So it's kind of telling the story of who they are and who their business is. And that can be in a blog or in a book or in social media posts on a website. So I did that for a while. And then I sort of gradually evolved into wanting to work in books, and that's where I developed the Your Book Your Way program. And I've been doing that for about like 4 years now, working with people of all different stages of writing a book. Some of them have an idea, some of them already have a manuscript that they need to work on. Some of them need someone to kind of write for them and just they'll talk out their ideas. Some of them want to do half of the writing and have me be a partner. Some of them just need an accountability partner or a coach to sort of push them over the finish line, to get their book done. So I'm continuing with that, but I'm sort of nothing's really changed over I've just sort of moved away from one client and I'm shifting towards others, and just continuing to do what I do, working with businesses to tell their stories on their websites, in their social media, working with entrepreneurs to help them develop books so they can, show up as an expert in what they do. And then, I'm also doing some work with nonprofits as well, in the fundraising space, to sort of tell the story of what these nonprofits work on, the people that they sort of benefit with their different resources and programs, and then helping them sort of polish that and put it all out into the world. But through all of that runs that sort of thread of storytelling. So just listening to people, helping them to tell the story and get it out to the world. And it just comes in all different sorts of formats.
And the name that you suggested for the show, for our interview, is Joy of Storytelling. Mm-hmm. So, because the podcast is about choosing joy, choosing you. Mm-hmm. So, tell me more about the joy of storytelling for you. What creates that joy?
The joy of storytelling to me is really about, for me personally, is when I'm working with someone and they're talking away and I ask them to do that pause and I sort of mirror back to them what they're talking about, ask a few more questions and open something up and sort of phrase it in a story. That creates joy for me because it's very rewarding for them to be able to recognize that, you know what, my story is important. It has value. Because we tend to dismiss our own experience and our own stories as, oh, yeah, nobody cares about that. But our stories, our personal stories, and the stories of how we developed over our lives and how we developed our businesses, that's what makes us unique. And that's what connects us to other people. You can go online right now and there's so much content out there. We're drowning in content. But the content that connects each other is the ones where people are telling their real stories. So for me, being able to help people tell those stories and connect them with other people, that's really where my joy comes from. And then beyond that, just sort of the whole tradition of storytelling, connecting one individual to another or connecting one individual to a larger community, because people are seeing a story or hearing a story and they are recognizing themselves within it. And they're feeling that moment of like, oh, that's just like me. I feel that too. I've been through that. That's my story too, or that mirrors my story. And it makes them feel understood and seen and like they belong in something because they recognize that through that story. And that's like creating a connected and shared joy and almost a sense of belonging. So there's so many different levels of joy that come through storytelling.
Thank you. Yeah. And that's exactly like with my book. I know we worked a lot with that. And what I found, such a joy of telling that story, but at the same time, when I told that story, it's no longer belonged to me. The story now becomes part of the universe and it doesn't affect me as much. Did you notice that with other people as well? That when they tell the story, that pain, that suffering lessens because the story is just a story. It's not real. Yeah, we've been through that, but it's just a story that made us who we are, but yet it's not who we are. We're much bigger than a story. To me, that was a lot of joy in that, kind of like working through a lot of those moments of pain, moments of suffering, moments of despair, where I recognized, yeah, it was pain, but yet I overcame it and became more of me through the kind of like, not the suffering, because that's not necessary, but through choosing something different, choosing the joy of life. Did you notice that too with other people?
Yeah, absolutely. I think many of us, we don't sit down and write our story down on a piece of paper so we have it and we can look at it and we can understand it and work through it and sort it out. Often our feelings, our memories, our experiences, the little stories that we've told ourselves or the stories that we've taken on as we were raised as children and we grew up and listened to our teachers and our parents and the different adults who had influence in our lives. All those things are a jumble in us often. And when we can get our story out, write it down and tell it to other people, there's almost it's like a process of sort of almost becoming refreshed or reborn, because it gets sorted out and we realize, you know what, this doesn't have so much power over me. So when we keep things to ourselves and keep it all pushed down, it can have a lot of power over us. But when we bring those things out into the light and share them with other people, we start to see, you know what, this really doesn't have that much power over me after all. Yeah, I've been through all of this, and we see the evolution of our lives, and we see who we've grown into and what we've overcome, and that can be very empowering in itself. So yeah, I have seen that in other people as well, when they, it's like a watershed moment for them. Like, oh, look at all of this that I've been through. I'm amazing, right? And I'm going to share that with the world, and all of the dark parts of our stories, because there is darkness and pain and suffering, like you mentioned, or we see it that way. But bringing it out into the light and sort of, putting it out there, it has less power over us.
Exactly. And also noticing how much strength we have. And to me, that putting out on the paper, it's funny because I love reading Kindle because I can stuff so many books in there and carry with me in just a little thingy. And yet holding my own book in my hand was something different. When I got my first copy, it was like, wow, that was a joy. And I actually very grateful for you in my life because you made it all happen. From all the podcasts, I didn't realize how much I said, what I said. And yet you picked up exactly on the points that were necessary in the book. How do you do that? How do you notice what's important and what is not? Because that's the joy of writing to me.
How do I do that? Oh, that's getting inside my head. That's just the way my brain. I don't know if I can explain that in words. I can certainly try. That's like I was saying earlier, when I'm listening to someone, my brain just goes to, oh, that's interesting. And then they talk some more, and then I think, oh, that's connected to that, and I just sort of, it all goes together, and then I kind of pull it out. I consume the content, and my brain wants to slot it all together and organize it together into the stories that belong together, the threads that belong together to form a story. And then I see other things. So that's repeating that. So that's strengthening that. And yeah, that's just all up here. And I mean, Helen, I think you were actually my first client. 6 years ago now, almost 7 years ago. And so writing your book was actually a joy for me because I know your voice. And I mean, I can certainly write with or for someone else who I've just met, but there's a lot more ease in it when I'm writing for someone who I've listened to for years. I know I know their content, but I kind of know their message and I understand their heart. And I just have this ability to put their words down onto the page. There's a lot of ghostwriters out there, or people out there who call themselves ghostwriters, or editors who take people's content and they change it so much that it ends up not sounding like them. And to me, that doesn't honor the person that you're working with. I don't call myself specifically a ghostwriter or a writer or an editor or a coach. I'm like all of those things because I pull all of those different abilities in order to recognize the person's message, honor their voice, and then kind of put it all together in a way that where I'm also thinking about the reader and what matters to them, so it can be presented in a way that will compel someone to continue reading and to see the message and to know the person, because it's their message and it's their true voice, and it's positioned in a way that the reader recognizes, oh, like I said before, that's me. I can see myself in that story. I want to hear more of what this person has to say. So it's a whole bunch of different things going together.
I know you helped Rachel, my daughter, to write her book, What in the Actual Fuck.
Yes. Yeah, that was an incredible project to be a part of, not only because Rachel has an incredible story of overcoming challenges and just like finding resilience and becoming a mother in circumstances that were not the story that she thought her life would sort of unfold in. And I loved working with your daughter on her book because she's one of those people that she did the writing herself, but I showed up to speak with her face to face and sort of help pull the stories out of her. And what I got from her during that process is that was kind of one of the most valuable parts of it, because she would write, but she didn't necessarily, have access to the story under the story under the story. And I would make her pause and say, tell me more about that. And then maybe I would go into what she had written afterwards and add comments at the side, like, I'd like to know more about what you were feeling here. Because sometimes when we tell a story, we're describing the circumstances that were going on and the events that unfolded, the people that were there and the things that we did. But a reader, yes, they want to know that, but they also want to know the story of what you were feeling, what was going on underneath the surface. So that's another thing that I kind of help people with by asking them those probing questions. And, when people show up and they want to write a book, they have an idea in mind, like, oh, I'd like to publish this on my birthday, which is, 4 months down the road. And they want to write sort of a memoir of a piece of their life and talk about the transformation. And they don't maybe realize that writing a memoir or a deeply personal book like that, it's a bit of an emotional journey. So, and it takes time to delve into the deeper layers of your story and pull that information out. And it's not, I can't sit and write for 8 hours in a day. I can't sit and edit for 8 hours in a day, because there's like feeling and thinking that comes with this work. And that's especially true for people who do want to write a book that is about themselves. They need to give themselves the time and the space to process all of that sort of all of the memories and the feelings and emotions. And they also need to give themselves space to just sort of walk away from the story and allow it to percolate a little bit up here. Because there's something sort of magical that happens, not just on the page, but like, and I do this all the time in my work. I'm working with someone to help write their story, and I got to get up and get away from the keyboard. I have to go for a walk, go out into the forest or something, and just let it sort of, I don't know, brew. And the ideas move around, and oh, that should be like that, and that should go over there. Yeah.
That's amazing to kind of like hear you talk about the process of writing or process of editing or process of creation, because it's not just about writing, as we know, it's about any creation, a book,
True.
a business or class or anything. It's like you have to walk away sometimes. And it's funny you said just walking in the woods. I remember creating a class a few years ago, and the host that was creating that or co-creating with me, it was a class in Italy on a Zoom, and she's like, "I'm exhausted. I cannot do the marketing and blah blah. Let's cancel the class." I'm like, "No, what would you like to do?" And she's like, "Oh, I'd like to walk in the park." I'm like, "Then do it. Don't just sit there and do the marketing, push yourself through pain, through suffering. No, it's about joy of creation." And you exactly talking about the joy of creation. And that probably was actually one of the biggest classes because I had to enlarge the Zoom because we didn't have enough spots.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, when you create from joy, it's totally different possibility. It's more about the inner feeling, inner processes. And the more we are open to the joy, the easier it is to create. When we try to contract and create from, as I call it, this reality of working 8 hours a day, it doesn't work for creation.
Absolutely. That's been one of sort of the biggest gifts that's come for me from working with you and helping to write your content over these years, is that I'm always being reminded, like, listen to your body.
Yeah.
Listen to what it's telling you, ask it questions, and pay attention. Because
that's the key.
Pay attention. And if you don't, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but I've had to learn this a couple of times. If you don't listen, the universe will come alongside and smack you upside the head sometimes. I've had two major concussions in the past sort of 10 years. And one of them happened in probably 3 months ago. And I wasn't listening. I wasn't listening. I was trying to be like eyes down, pushing, and working and not paying attention to the things that weren't really working for me. And so the universe said, "No, we're going to just give you a little pause, because when you have a concussion, you can't. You have to rest. You're forced to stop working, or else you don't recover." So, being able to do that, have that pause it took about 2 months for me to get back to doing the amount of work that I enjoy doing. But during that pause, I really had to sort of reevaluate, like, what is working for me, what do I want, what does my body want, and then sort of work towards that, because I don't want to be creating from a space of, I can't create really from a space of like, just like driving myself, that whole like hustle, mentality. That's not creation. Like you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the joy of creation. Absolutely. And I love that I get reminders about that constantly. I was just writing earlier today, helping to put together a newsletter for you about some of your upcoming classes, and sort of like, that sounds fantastic. I need to remember these things.
That's so cool. Thank you so much, darling. I think we are coming to kind of like close, but we still have a couple more minutes. What advice would you tell people who would like to get their story out but have no idea how, or they're afraid that people would not like their story?
That happens a lot. I think people think, oh, my story doesn't have any value, but for every person that has a story, there is someone out there who needs to hear that story. So everybody has a valuable story to tell. And, just if you're looking to tell a story, you can reach out to someone like me to reach out to me and just have a conversation. A lot of times when I talk to people, they say, oh, I want to write a book, but I don't know what I want it to be about. I don't know if anybody would want to read about that. And just the process of like having a conversation about it and talking about it, it often sort of shifts that for them. And they're like, oh, I thought I wanted to write this book, but I think I want to write this book instead. And then I can draw on a content marketing background as well, to not just like how to get a story on a page and how to write it well, but like how to use that story to, to market yourself and to market what you do, so you can connect with the right people and sort of bring them in.
That's wonderful. And funny you say that, because original book that I started 5 years ago was totally different than the one that we co-created. It's like I'm looking at what I wrote 5 years ago. I'm like, this is nice. And maybe it will be the second book. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or the third.
Well, I'm excited to write the next one with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thank you, Helen. It's been lovely to be here.
And please look up Kim Dietrich. Let's see, what's your name of your business again?
It's you can find me at storyandsubstance.ca. My business is called Story and Substance Co. storyandsubstance.ca. You can find me there.
That's wonderful. And we'll probably see you again sometime on different places, maybe still on podcast. And thank you so much for watching it now and in the future. And we'll see you later. Bye-bye.